Are you searching for purpose of life? Discover your true identity. Stay tuned to Shalom World.
G'day, how are you? No, really, how are you? I hope you're good. I'm doing well, thanks for asking. I'm really excited for today. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about strengths. We're going to get to know ourselves a little bit. I'm really excited for who's joining me on another slice of pizza. We're joined today by Renee Doyle. Renee, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. Zac, how are you?
I'm great, thanks for asking.
Oh, pleasure. It's
Thank you for joining us. Are you hungry?
A little bit.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Heaps of pizza?
Always.
What are you after?
I don't know. I'm always a bit of a fan of any kind of chicken on a pizza.
Okay.
Or anything, really.
Chicken on a pizza, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hey!
Wow.
Let's say grace, eh?
Let's do it.
In the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. God, I just thank you so much for this food. Thank you that you always give food for us to nourish our bodies, and I just pray you bless our conversations and help us to find out a little bit more about ourselves and how you've created us and what you've created us for. Amen.
Amen.
Son, Holy Spirit. Cool. Let's grab your piece.
Thank you.
I'm actually so hungry and so ready for this.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, this smells amazing.
This is quite a good pizza. I have had this one before.
Have
and
you?
It's probably one of my favourites. You think I'd be getting sick of pizza by now, but I
was going to ask you.
I'm really enjoying it. I love pizza.
Okay.
I think you're saying that Layla loves pizza as well?
She is. This is my daughter. I was going to say my youngest daughter, my only daughter. And yes.
3 boys, 1 daughter.
3 boys. She is bound to love pizza. Pizza is a staple in our house, so.
There's something about, as a kid, we used to have Friday night pizza nights. So we'd have like pizza and a movie. We'd usually have sport Friday afternoon as well. So pizza was always a staple in my family as well.
That's pretty much exactly what goes down in our family.
Friday night pizza
Friday night pizza, family night, movie, everyone's in. Although we're on a break because normally it's filled with soccer, so.
Yeah, so
Yes.
soccer and pizza.
Soccer
usually,
and pizza.
But no soccer, just pizza. Cool, and what else do you do with yourself besides watch your kids play soccer and eat pizza?
Well, that's a big part of it, Zac. My kids are mad soccer fans, but I have 4 kids. 3 boys and 1 girl, ranging from about 11 till almost 2. So that keeps me pretty busy. I also work with you at Net Ministries.
It's the best. I love it.
It is.
Good fun.
So I work there as a senior supervisor and doing leadership formation. I work there 2 days a week. And I also have a business doing strengths coaching. So I do a lot of work with teams and helping people discover their strengths and discovering the strengths a lot of in teamwork, the people around them as well. So
cool. And so what does that look like? You run like seminars and like conferences and stuff like that?
Speak at different things, but essentially it's getting people to do an assessment that kind of helps them understand a bit more about who they are and how they're wired, how they see the world, how they think, to kind of just dive deeper into that self-discovery. And then we kind of break it open. And it really helps, especially in teams and in the places that I work, to understand the people that you're working with, because we're all wired very differently. And sometimes it just really helps to understand, where is someone coming from?
I think at the moment you've had a lot of time with your kids as well, like working with them, helping them learn, obviously, doing school from home.
Yes.
How can you see like strengths playing out with your kids?
Yeah, it's really a great question because it's been a really interesting journey actually at the moment. And I've loved watching, especially their different learning styles. You start to see, again, the ways that their little minds work so differently that I may not have always seen when they're at school during the day, and the different things that either are really struggles for them or they find really easy. They're also sometimes hard to pick, or we don't value it because it's so intrinsic to us that we don't even think of it as a gift. You know, my son, Ethan, loves to organize things, like passion. Like I'm not kidding you. The other day he asked me, Mum, can I just reorder our kitchen cupboard? It's really annoying.
It's a good thing to do during, like Eliza did the same thing. Like we bought a label maker and she like reorganized. I was like, oh, that's where the flour goes.
Yes, and that is heaven for him. He loves things having an order and going in place. And his room is perfect. He's even, I don't know if I should say encourage or challenge me to redo my own cupboards. He doesn't like the level of organization. And he's so different to me. Neither my husband or I are quite as detailed or as organized. He's so passionate about that. But you know, it transfers. You see it on the soccer field. One of his best things is he's quite strategic and wants everyone to be in the right place so the things can flow properly. And once you can name that and help, you know, kind of affirm that in someone, they start to go, oh, I didn't think that was a gift. I thought everyone did that. And I'm like, no, sweetheart, definitely not everyone naturally does those things. So I think it's the same. It's beautiful to call it out in your kids because it kind of gives them that advantage of really getting that glimpse of who am I in this world? What do I have to offer the world? What brings me joy and how can I use that in the day-to-day? Yeah.
And like I think having kids, you know, you're able to see the way that they think and the way that they're learning and be like, oh, I wonder whether they actually get that from me or not. But I think for me, when you're speaking about that, I'm just reminded of like, I've just started studying philosophy and I'm like, they're asking all these big questions and I'm like, oh, I used to ask all these questions when I was like 6 years old laying in bed and I couldn't get to sleep because I was thinking about all these big questions about how we know whether we exist or not. And I'm like, I thought I was just crazy. But
that does not surprise me now knowing you.
There's so many other people that actually think this way. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's a strength. Maybe it's something that I can use. And I have used it, you know, like whenever we're speaking with our missionaries and they're talking about their relationship with God and they're trying to communicate that more effectively. I'm like, why did you feel that way? Like, why did you make those changes? And I'm like, can you explain more of that? And it's just so good. I'm like, I have a critical eye to make it better, so...
And the great thing, even just about what you shared, is as you use your gift and ask those questions, you're helping them dig deeper and learn more about, you're gifting them and blessing their life as they go deeper and figure out why they do the things they do. And I think that's what I love most, is that God has uniquely made each one of us with these gifts and talents and strengths, not just for us to hold there and never use, but so that they are used and we bless the people around us. We bring joy. We, as I was saying before, maybe you spark a new idea that helps people out or makes life easier, or maybe you're just able to think really positively and bring people up with you. All these things are gifts that are meant to help and build up the people around us. And I just think it's beautiful that it works that way, that we all have something to offer. My other son, Elias, loves to be outside. He is super competitive, loves to run. And if he's inside for too long, you see him kind of losing that life a bit. And I know one of the best things I can do is like, okay, Eli, time out. Let's go outside together. You know, let's spend some time together. Let's run around. Let's kick the soccer ball to the best of my ability. But I see that on teams and in workplaces and just in daily life too. I think it kind of reminds me of that prayer of St. Francis. I don't want to get it wrong, but it's better to understand than to be understood, you know? And I think that if we just try and understand people and kind of go, why are they being the way they're being? And that understanding and awareness can help us love a bit more, I think, as well. Because when we don't know what people are doing, it can just be plain irritating, you know?
I think I've experienced that when I served on net. Like, you know, we have the conflict resolution, you know, the courageous conversations, and it's like when we were really encouraged when someone was ticking us off, it's probably not because they hate you. They probably just do something different. They've grown up in a different way to you. And so we're always encouraged to seek understanding. And I learned so much just about the way that other people work, also but the way that I worked as well. Like, because when you find out that, like you do that differently, then you're like, oh, well, maybe not everyone is like me.
Yeah.
So I think that's really useful.
Yeah, and I think that understanding that people aren't like you as well is really helpful, and that's probably what I'd say about the benefit of something like a common language, like strengths, of understanding, well, if they're wired that way, it gives you an understanding. So, for example, if I'm someone, and I am someone who just has an idea and just wants to do it straight away, like let's just make it happen. But someone else I'm working with might be like, I could come up with an idea and they might like, okay, hold on, slow down. We need to think about all the things that could happen and all. And I'm like, what? Why are we doing this? Let's just go, let's do it. And I could get irritated thinking, they're just shutting down my ideas. Yeah. They don't like my ideas. They don't care. And that can cause friction in our relationship. But then if I maybe know, and I have done exercises with different people to understand, actually one of their strengths that they operate out of is they love to think through what could go wrong. What could be some of the obstacles that could get in the way of success of this project? And if I think through them ahead of time and plan for it, it will go a lot more smoothly. So, in fact, instead of being annoyed then, once I knew that, I could go, they're not trying to shut down my ideas. Yeah. They're actually operating out of a really good place of wanting this to work well. And their way of doing that is to think through all the obstacles. And if I know that, it's actually, we can work together even stronger, It's a great collaboration with other people. And I think that's sometimes the power of really understanding other people's strengths and giftedness is, and if we can, taking that moment to, when you do feel frustrated, maybe that, it's a bit counterintuitive, but to ask, what strength are they operating out of? What, my daughter Layla, for example, asks 1,000 questions, and sometimes it is very hard to sit and listen, Mom, why does the sky be this color? And why do the clouds move like that? I'm like, oh, Layla, enough questions, but
I was definitely Layla.
yeah, you would have been. But my husband is really good at kind of, Layla, that's beautiful curiosity. I love the way you see the world. I love how you want to know more. And that draws out her strength. That helps her to grow. So there is a lot of beauty in trying to understand, especially in moments of conflict and
Yeah, and I think it can often be difficult. Do you want some water, by the way?
Sure.
Great.
Love some.
I think it can often be difficult to that because, sometimes when someone's doing something so different to the way you do it, your first response is to, punch them in the face or tell them to shut up. You're like, stop with all of the questions, relax. But it's actually a beautiful gift. And I think when we often think about the saints, we often see them as very holy people that don't get frustrated by people asking questions, don't get frustrated by people's need to have things in an order. And you're like, I don't think I can ever live up to that. Have you ever had an experience with the saints where you're like, how do they seem to have it together all the time? Or do you think they had it together all the time? I don't.
I don't know if it's just to make me feel better, but I don't think they had it together all the time. And probably my simple answer is they were human. They weren't not human. And as well, a lot of the saints were trailblazers. They were pioneers. They came up against lots of obstacles. They would have been, I like to think some of them would have been really passionate and fiery people and had to fight to get there. So no, I don't think there would have been just an absence of butting heads with people or conflict. I think, if anything, at times it would have been quite intense, probably assuming some of the personalities of the saints, But I think that's what makes it so great, is that in the midst of it, we're human, we're real, we have our weaknesses as well. And often, similar to what you were saying before, often our greatest strengths can also be our greatest weaknesses, So take, for example, if you're someone who just loves to get ideas going, you might also be a bit of a bull at a gate, and just want to smash through, and other people are like, hold up, I'm not there yet, So sometimes it can be both ways, and that's really good to be aware of. But ultimately, I think that they were people who had to learn to love, just like the rest of us, and have that struggle in relationships and
I think we see that with Saint Therese of Lisieux, when you read her readings about her being in the chapel and the nuns next to her rattling their rosary beads and her getting really frustrated about that, and I'm just like, man, I can relate to that. I
Yeah.
get frustrated about these tiny little things, and I'm just like, man, why am I so fickle? But it's like, I'm human.
Yeah.
And like, the reality is, like, we could just leave it there and be frustrated,
Mm-hmm.
or we could get over ourselves, seek understanding, and love that person for the very thing that might frustrate us.
Mm-hmm.
I think, for example, in the scriptures we see Jesus saying, love your enemies and hate and pray for those who persecute you. Like, he calls us to go the next step. If someone asks for your cloak, give them your tunic as well.
Yeah.
How can we love those around us even when they're frustrating us? Like, what are some actual practical things that we can do to love the people that do things differently to us?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. It's one that we live through every day, really, isn't it? Because we're human and we're interacting with people all the time. I think what I was saying before, just really trying to understand people helps. I also think honesty and vulnerability. Something that we do a lot in our work is we encourage people and live ourselves to have the hard conversations. So it's like what you say, even Jesus saying, if you only love those who are easy to love, what merit is there in that,
The Pharisees do that.
Exactly. So it's almost like we're invited to go to that next step. Vulnerability also, I'm a big fan because it also leads to the depth in relationships that I think we're all longing for, like that feeling of true community, of that feeling of belonging. It doesn't come at just that surface level, it's that.
And Matthew Kelly speaks about that, and he's like 7 levels of intimacy. Like, we talk about like cliches, and then we might talk about facts or opinions, and then he like goes down, and at the bottom of it, it's feelings, it's hopes, it's dreams, it's failures, it's expectations. And when you're able to communicate those, like, that's when you're able to be truly intimate with someone. Like, you're able to reveal yourself for who you truly are, like warts and all. And like the other person does the same, and there's like this really beautiful exchange that happens. But if we stay up there on the facts or the opinions or the cliches, like, we don't get anywhere.
Yeah, and you've probably heard it a number of times, as I have, but you hear of intimacy as that intimacy. And it's like allowing someone to see into you, even those parts that maybe you want to hide, and kind of pride can hold us back a lot of, like, I want you to see the best of me. I want you to see the perfect parts. I don't want you to see the failures, the vulnerable parts. And even sometimes that, for me, I work a lot with people's goals and dreams. I love that space. I love hearing people, because sometimes we're afraid to say the things that we want most in life. It's scary because people could laugh at us. People go, you want to, nah, not you.
I know you,
or that's not a good dream, and so allowing someone to see that depth of you is trusting someone. It is making yourself vulnerable to another person, but it also creates another beautiful layer in relationship, like you say, at the levels of depth. It's way better than talking about the weather.
So, Renee, do you have any practical tips for our viewers on how they can lean into their strengths, help discover other people's, how to overcome differences of strengths or opinions or ways of doing things, and to grow in intimacy and love with the people around them?
Whew, they're small questions, Zac. But I think in simple terms, it's just about taking time out. I really encourage people to dive deeper and to ask the big questions. It's not something that we're so busy. We don't necessarily take the time out to go, who am I? What brings me life? What do I love doing? What gifts has God given me? And sometimes that means asking the people that you love. Maybe they have some insight. They see you. Maybe it's taking an assessment or something that can help you to put language around it, to really, I think a part of it as well is to be brave and vulnerable, to have the hard conversations and to really look within and dive deeper into that self-awareness, because I think it really helps us in our confidence in who we are. St. Catherine of Siena says, be who you were created to be and you will set the world on fire. And I believe that. And the more we know who we are, the more that we can gift it to the world and make the impact that only you can make. That's the truth. We are all created so uniquely, and there's only one, and there'll never be a repeat. So all the more that we need to be who we were created to be. And I think that means we need to take some more time out and act, not just always think, but to think about who am I and how can I offer who I am to the world and bless the people around me in the big and the very small day-to-day ways. And I think you'll find that, you'll set the world on fire, you'll sort of set your own heart on fire. You know when you're doing something that you love and you feel alive, that glorifies God. Man fully alive, that glorifies God.
Amen. Thank you, Renee. I feel inspired. I feel encouraged to go out and be who I was made to be and to help others do that. How are you feeling? I hope you're feeling well, and go ask someone how they're going in the next week or so. And don't just stop there. Ask them what their dreams are, what their hopes are, and help them achieve it. Renee has told me she wants to be a professional gymnast.
Have I?
No, just kidding. But seriously, go and do it. And please join us next week for another slice of pizza. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for another slice of pizza. If you want to catch this first every week, make sure you're tuning in to Shalom World every Monday night at 8 p.m. And if you haven't already, make sure you're following us on all of your social medias, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you get your podcast from. And make sure you follow, like, subscribe, comment, share, so as many people can get around this pizza as possible. And I'll see you guys next week. So welcome, Renee Doyle.
Thank you.
How are you this morning? Yep. Renee has told me she wants to be a rapper. Just kidding. But do it, ask them. And please join us next week for another slice of pizza.
A lot of talk in our church today about the new evangelisation, and we might ask, well, what's new about the new evangelisation? One thing that's new is that we're trying to renew the faith in people who should already be Catholic, should already be Christian. Individuals, families, communities, whole cultures that need to rediscover the gospel. And so what's new is that they're getting a new shot in the arm of faith, of evangelisation. Another thing that's new about it is the way that we do that. And the new media and groups like Shalom World TV are very important for bringing the gospel anew to our cultures, to our families, to each of us individually. And so I encourage all the viewers of Shalom World TV, and I encourage Shalom World TV themselves to keep up the good work, to keep watching this channel and to keep up the good work of presenting the Catholic faith to our world today.